Fired waitress, 24, uncovers heartwarming truth behind undercover boss. Incredible news exposed during fight for justice. Emily stood in the vibrant glow of the holiday lights draping her quaint suburban town, feeling the chill in the air match the ice forming in her heart. Just days ago, she was a beloved waitress at Joe's Diner, a place where laughter echoed and everyone knew her name. Now, she was jobless, tossed aside like a worn-out apron after a mistaken order. 2 weeks before Christmas, the news stung harder than an unexpected winter chill. The diner had been her sanctuary. Her mother's illness had been a constant worry, and her younger brother Mark relied on her to keep things afloat. Fear coiled around her, tighter than a noose. Without the diner, how could she manage rent, groceries, and medication for her mother? How could she pursue her dream of culinary school, locking eyes with the faded open sign that once promised busy mornings and friendly chatter? She felt betrayed. It was corporate greed, she learned later. A heart-wrenching episode of Undercover Boss came on TV and it showed the unyielding truth of her former employer, a man who would dismiss workers without a second thought. She felt like a fool who believed in the warm smiles of those she served. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a heavy heart, Emily turned to her community. She began gathering stories from her co-workers, the ones still wearing their Joe's uniforms, still struggling to stay afloat. Each tale echoed her feelings of indignation. She learned of the single parents, the students juggling multiple jobs, and the elderly who worked just to make ends meet. Their struggles laid bare a shared burden that couldn't be ignored, but with every story collected, the walls of corporate indifference loomed higher and thicker. Their resistance felt suffocating. Emily faced an emotional tug-of-war. She couldn't abandon her family. And yet, those still clocking into the diner deserved better. "Emily, is this really worth it?" her brother asked one night, anxious as their bills piled up. The flickering light of their small living room reflected the conflicted emotions swirling inside her. She wanted to inspire change, but at what cost? Just as her spirits wavered, a video she posted went viral. A raw, passionate plea for justice shifted the tides. Suddenly Emily was a voice for her community. Their stories lit up social media, sparking conversations buzzing from coast to coast. The climax hit when Emily stood before her former boss, her heart pounding in her chest. "These are not just numbers, these are lives," she blurted out, her voice steady as she shared stories of the very co-workers who made the diner what it was. Gasps filled the air. The truth unveiled, raw and tangible. As the confrontation unfolded, Emily realized she was not just fighting for herself but for every single worker silenced by greed. The weight of her journey pressed down hard, but a glimmer of hope emerged. Could her quest for justice unify her community or tear her family apart? With everything hanging in the balance, the stakes had never been higher. What would she sacrifice to reclaim her dignity and honor those she loved? The next morning, the sky was a bruised shade of gray, casting a somber shadow over Emily's small house. She could feel the weight of her previous night's confrontation pressing heavily against her chest. After laying wide awake, going over her every word, she finally slipped out of bed. The chill in the air matched the unease knotting her stomach. Firing up her phone, she opened social media. The comments were a whirlwind of support, anger, and encouragement. "Keep fighting." One tagged her. "You're our voice." Read another. The surge of love brought a tear to her eye. Finally, people were listening. But with that surge of hope, a hollow emptiness echoed in the back of her mind. For every positive comment, there were nasty trolls lurking. "Why do you get fired anyway?" someone typed. You should be been a better worker, another sneered. It didn't take long to drown her in self-doubt again. She shook her head, banishing the negativity. In that moment, she chose to channel her energy into something productive. "Hey, Mark," she called to her brother. He was curled up in a blanket on the couch, nibbling on cereal for breakfast. "Help me out today, okay?" "Sure, but what do you need me for?" His sleepy eyes widened with interest. "We're going on a mission. I want to interview more people affected by this," she declared with determination flaring in her voice. A nod from Mark set them off on their short adventure through the town. Emily grabbed her phone, her heart racing at the possibilities, more stories to gather, more voices to amplify. They ventured into the community centers, the library, and eventually landed back at the diner. She knew the faces around its counter better than her own reflection. Stepping inside was bittersweet, the clamor of cooks and servers brought memories flooding back. Emily spotted Sarah, a single mom who had been a pillar of support. With a warm smile, Emily approached her. "Hey, can I ask you some questions for a video I'm putting together?" "Of course, hon," Sarah replied, her voice filled with warmth but weariness tucked beneath her smile. As they spoke, Emily felt her heart ache for Sarah's struggles. Each story she captured brought forth not just pain, but resilience and unity. The atmosphere transformed from one of sadness to strength, fueled by the shared determination of those still fighting for their livelihoods. The more Emily listened, the more she felt the flicker of hope growing within her, as though each narrative was a tiny spark on a larger flame. With renewed vigor, she rifled through their stories and pieced together a narrative that would showcase their collective struggle. She envisioned not just grievances aired, but a declaration of solidarity. While sitting down with the last interview, Mark nudged her shoulder, breaking her concentration. "What's next, Em?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Glancing around, Emily felt her heart swell. "This isn't just about me anymore. I need to create a petition, to gather everyone's signatures, and demand change. If we stand together, we can make them listen." Mark smiled, confidence building in his sister's resolve. "Let us do it." But as they compiled the final interviews and stories, something nagged at the back of her mind. How would they rally support? Who would listen closely enough to change the minds of the powerful? Pushing away her worries, she prepared to launch her plan, unaware that greater challenges lay ahead. Cold winds howled around the diner as she felt a rush of determination. Just then, a notification popped up on her phone, a message from a familiar face. "Emily, I think you need to see this." Instinctively, her heartbeat quickened. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the screen, a sense of dread mixing with excitement. What awaited her next? Emily held her breath as she opened the message. The screen flickered with anticipation, revealing a video link. Her heart raced, curiosity battling with anxiety. With a swift tap, the video began to play, and her gaze locked onto the visuals. A familiar facade, the logo of her former employer emblazoned on the screen. "Emily," the video's narrator spoke, "this is important. You need to see the truth behind what happened." The footage switched to behind-the-scenes clips of her old workplace, the diner where she had spent countless hours serving customers and chatting with coworkers. A series of interviews followed, featuring several familiar faces, her colleagues, her boss, and even corporate bigwigs. They discussed the decision-making processes, the layoffs, and company policies as if they were discussing stock prices instead of families and livelihoods. As Emily watched, her stomach turned. The management team, comfortably ensconced in plush chairs and tailored suits, spoke of downgrading staff as merely a cost-cutting measure. But what struck her the hardest was a snippet of a meeting where they labeled these desperate actions as restructuring for growth. Their dismissive tone felt like salt in the wounds of her community. "Can you believe this?" Mark's frustrated voice brought her back to the present. He leaned closer to the screen, his brow furrowed. "They're talking about you, and not in a good way." Emily's fingers clutched her phone tightly. She replayed parts of the video, the words bathing her in cold disbelief. They had labeled her and others expendable. Anger coursed through her veins, igniting the hope she had been so carefully cultivating. She took a deep breath, and her mind began racing with ideas. We need to expose this, show people what's really going on. This isn't just about my story. It's about everyone who is suffering because of their bottom line. Mark shot her an incredulous look. But how? You've got their names, but they've got the power. I know, she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. But if I can piece together everyone's stories with this video, and rally enough people behind it, then maybe we'll have a voice big enough to be heard. Mark nodded, a flicker of excitement igniting in his eyes. Let us hit the streets, Em. We can spread the word and alert other local news channels. They love a good human interest story. Encouraged by her brother's determination, Emily began tapping out a message to her followers. She shared the video link, expressing her outrage and encouraging others to stand in solidarity. With every push notification, every comment, her community rallied, voices rising, their collective strength becoming palpable. As they prepared to head out to gather signatures for her petition, again, Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced down, and her heart dropped. The notification was from someone she hadn't heard from in ages. Emily, we need to talk. It's urgent. I have info that can change everything. It was from Josh, her former co-worker, someone she trusted but hadn't seen since the job loss. An uneasy feeling settled in her stomach. What new twist awaited her? Faced with sudden uncertainty, Emily knew she had to find out what Josh wanted. But was she prepared for the truth he might unveil? As she locked eyes with Mark, her determination hardened. Together, they were ready to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. What had Josh discovered that changed everything? Emily felt a mix of exhilaration and dread as she read Josh's message again. It had been years since they'd last spoken, yet somehow, he always seemed to be just a step away from her thoughts. She tapped on his profile picture, hesitation gnawing at her insides. It was a reminder of what they once had, a camaraderie sparked in the grease-covered corners of the diner. Are you going to respond? Mark asked, watching her closely. His eyes were bright with curiosity. She took a deep breath and began typing. What is this about? I need to know. Her finger hovered over the send button. Should she reveal her plans? Would it push him away or draw him closer? Curiosity got the best of her. Seconds later, the phone buzzed again. Josh's reply rolled in, can't talk here. Meet me at the old diner after hours? I'll explain everything. Emily exchanged a glance with Mark. They both knew that meeting could be a pivotal moment. We're going. The words came out firmly, almost rallying herself. The sun began to dip low in the sky as they faced the old diner, a now familiar iconic symbol of her past. The neon lights flickered slightly, a pulse of nostalgia in the fading light. Memories of laughter and warmth flooded her mind, but they felt tainted now. Are you ready? Mark asked, sensing her hesitation again as they pulled into the empty parking lot. Not really, Emily admitted. But I have to know. Her heart raced as she pushed the door open, the familiar bell chiming a sad greeting. The rustling sounds of the empty seats echoed in the air like whispers of the past. She saw Josh sitting alone in a booth, his figure silhouetted against the dim light. He looked more worn than she remembered, but the eyes that met hers still shone with the spark of mischief. Emily. His voice was steady, but there was an urgency beneath it. Thanks for coming. Let us get to it. What is so important? Josh leaned in closer and glanced towards the door before speaking. It's about the video. It's worse than you think. They've got plans that could hurt a lot more than just us. What do you mean? Her heart dropped at his tone. What plans? He pulled out his phone, showing her a series of messages that made her chest tighten. They revealed discussions about shuttering the diner completely, not just layoffs, but the entire establishment. This is bigger than just our stories. They're planning to pave over the whole area for a new development. Emily felt her breath hitch in her throat. The thought of losing the diner, a place that felt like home, was crushing. Many others among her community depended on it. And they think we're all out of the picture, Josh continued, his voice growing more passionate. We can't let them do this. We have to band together, get community support. We're their backbone, Em. They see that if we fight back. Absolutely. Mark exclaimed from his spot beside her, his fists clenched in determination. Emily felt a wave of hope wash over her. We can launch a campaign, raise funds, get the community on our side. If they think they can push us around, they have another thing coming. Josh nodded, excitement growing in his eyes. Yes. I knew you'd understand. Together, we can expose their plans, and we can showcase the diner's significance, a community hub worth saving. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to reclaim not just her voice but her community's future. But just then, her phone chimed again. This time, it was an alert about an emergency board meeting from the diner's corporate office scheduled for the following day. What if the worst happens? She thought, feeling a chill run down her spine. Let us move fast, she said, determination flooding her veins. We need to rally everyone before it's too late. As they strategized, a relentless energy filled the air. It was time to fight back, but a small voice inside her whispered a question: would their efforts really be enough? Tomorrow would be crucial. But what surprises awaited them when they uncovered all the layers of deception laid before them? The next morning, the sun peeked through the half-drawn curtains of Emily's bedroom. She could feel its warmth, but the nervous energy swirling in her stomach overshadowed any comfort it might offer. She checked the time: 6 a.m. Today was the day. Today, everything could change. With slightly trembling hands, she brewed coffee, letting the rich aroma fill the air. Each drip felt like a countdown, pushing her closer to the hour of reckoning. Mark would be arriving soon, ready to strategize before they rallied the community. She couldn't shake the urgency clinging to her. Every moment felt precious. Emily. A loud knock jolted her out of her thoughts. It was Mark. She opened the door, taking a quick breath before letting him in. His expression was a mix of excitement and worry, mirroring her own. Are you ready? He asked, pacing slightly. Not even close, she replied with a nervous laugh. But we have to be. The diner means so much to so many. Mark grabbed her hands, grounding her. We're in this together, Em. You're not alone. With a nod, she let out a long breath, dismissing the fluttering doubts. Together, they made their way to the diner, the familiar route feeling charged with purpose. As they pulled into the parking lot, she noticed a group gathering outside the entrance. Old friends and familiar faces formed a cluster, chatting. Some were carrying coffee from nearby shops, others clutching handmade signs with messages of support. Look at that, Mark said, a smile breaking across his face. They showed up for us. Emily's heart swelled. Each person present represented a piece of what the diner meant to the community. As they stepped out of the car, she spotted Mrs. Anderson, the retired school teacher who had dedicated countless afternoons to volunteering at the diner. Emily felt a rush of admiration for those willing to fight for something they loved. Good morning. Mrs. Anderson called out, waving an enthusiastic hand. The crowd responded with a chorus of greetings, igniting a spark within Emily. Okay, everyone. She shouted, stepping onto the hood of the car for a higher vantage point. Listen up. We know there's a board meeting today, and the stakes are really high. A hush fell over the group, eyes trained on her. But we can't let them bulldoze over our diner. This isn't just about brick and mortar, it's about our community. She felt empowered as the cheers from her friends surged, echoing her conviction. Among the crowd, she caught sight of Josh, who gave her an encouraging thumbs up, fueling her determination. Mark and I have some plans to organize a campaign, gather signatures, tell our stories, create wave after wave of awareness. But we need each of you. We need your voices. With each word, her confidence soared. The more she spoke, the more impossible it seemed to let go of this space that meant so much. Let us come together, show them who we are. We can't back down. As the crowd erupted in applause and shouts, "Embark on this journey together," Emily felt a thrill of hope. But beneath that, a doubt lingered. What if the corporate powers were too strong? What if their efforts fell flat? Moments later, a figure appeared at the back of the crowd. Dressed in a sharp suit, with a cold, calculating expression, the corporate executive that Emily recognized from the meeting stood there, arms crossed, surveying them with a look of disdain. "Emily!" he shouted over the noise, his voice sharp. "You'd best give this up now while you still can. You don't know what you're getting into." An icy chill ran through her, but just as quickly as it came, determination coursed through her veins again. "Watch us," she said, fearlessly. The crowd's cheers roared back. As she locked eyes with the executive, she knew one thing: they were about to uncover secrets that would change everything. What revelation lay hidden beneath the surface? Emily resolved to find out, ready to fight with all she had. Emily felt a mix of adrenaline and anxiety as she stood atop the car, the rough hood damp against her sneakers. The crowd was a wave of faces, a sea of hope and determination. The executive's disdainful gaze made her spine prickle, but she refused to show fear. They would not back down. Mark stepped beside her, his face close to hers. "What's the plan if he gets aggressive?" he whispered, the concern creasing his brow. She could only shrug. "We keep the focus on the diner. We need to hold their attention." The executive, with his pinned posture, remained an obstacle, but Emily couldn't let him distract her. Assessing the crowd, she saw familiar, encouraging faces: Mrs. Anderson, the young couple from down the street, and even a few teens from school, swinging hands and giggling. They were standing up for something bigger than themselves today. The diner wasn't just a building, it was memories, friendships, and heart. "Let us rally, everyone!" Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "We're not just fighting for food, we're fighting for a place where families gather and memories are made." Cheers rose from the crowd like steam from a hot cup of coffee, and she soaked in their energy. But she watched the executive out of the corner of her eye, his arms now crossed over an expensive suit. The contrast between him and her supporters, dressed casually, ground her nerve deeper. She could feel the strength of community. They began chanting, voices lifting high, and Emily found herself smiling broadly. She encouraged them to share their stories one by one. They stepped into the spotlight, their hearts open. An older gentleman stepped forward, his hands trembling, but his voice was steady. "I've worked at the diner for over 30 years. It's not just a job for me. It's family. My daughter learned to ride a bike in that lot, and my wife and I had our first date at the counter." His words hung in the air, thick with emotion, drawing nods and whispers from the crowd. Mark clapped him on the shoulder as he stepped down, and soon another brave soul took his place. The stories flew out like confetti, tales of laughter and connection, woven through every corner of the diner. Each recollection was a direct hit to the executive, piercing his icy facade. The moment was electric. Emily couldn't remember feeling this alive. It was as if the diner's spirit had infused her with newfound strength, and she stepped back up to the hood, ready to capitalize on the momentum. "Look, everyone, we have history here. And history can't just be swept away." But then she glanced back at the executive. His expression had shifted to something intense. There was something beneath his steely demeanor. Was it irritation, annoyance, or was he considering their words? "Emily!" he barked, breaking through the rising energy. "These tales are worthless if you don't know the truth behind the business. This isn't just about love, it's about profit margins. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but Emily's heart raced with a different kind of fear. Was he calculating the stakes further? I'm afraid you're mistaken, she called back. What we're trying to protect is worth more than any number on a spreadsheet. The executive straightened, his eyes narrowing with purpose. Then you're going to need more than stories to win. Prepare for a fight you won't be ready for. A hush fell over the crowd as they caught the edge of his threat, a palpable tension settling in. What could he possibly mean by that? Emily squared her shoulders, heart pounding. She needed to uncover the truth behind the diner and the corporate agenda lurking in the shadows. The stakes had just raised dramatically, and she could sense this was only the beginning of their unraveling journey, but was she prepared for whatever came next? As the crowd started to murmur nervously, she took a deep breath. This battle wasn't just for today, it was for the legacy of the diner and everyone who poured their heart into it. And she intended to fight, no matter the cost. What secrets awaited her in the battle ahead? The crowd's murmurs grew louder, each person exchanging hushed whispers, their faces shifting from hope to uncertainty. Emily felt the weight of their collective anxiety pressing down on her. The executive, now looming like a cloud over this gathering, seemed to relish the unease he had sparked. Everyone, listen. She shouted, trying to reclaim the energy of the moment. We cannot let fear win. Our passion for this diner and our community is stronger than any cold calculation. Slowly, the crowd started to find their rhythm again. Heads nodded in agreement. The laughter and heartfelt stories hadn't just bonded them, they had ignited something fierce. But that wasn't enough. Not anymore. Mark, she said, leaning towards him, I think we need to dig deeper. We need to understand exactly what we're up against. His brows knitted together. You mean? Yes. We need to find out what's really happening behind those boardroom doors. The executive mentioned profit margins, there must be something else at stake. Something bigger. Just then, a voice piped up from the back of the crowd. It was Mrs. Anderson, her hands clasped to her heart. Emily, my grandson works at the corporate office. He's been mentioning some plans that don't sit right with me. Emily's heart raced with new hope. Mrs. Anderson, anything you know could help us. I'll bring you what I can. But it might take time, she replied, determination igniting her expression. With each passing moment, the tension thickened, contrasting sharply with the warmth of camaraderie surrounding Emily. The crowd shared a palpable sense of unity that pushed her forward. They were like a tightly knotted rope, one that couldn't be easily unraveled. Let us not leave today empty-handed, Emily announced. We need to solidify our presence. Mark, can you help me get some banners made? Something that showcases our love for the diner but also our determination to protect it? Absolutely. We'll make them stand out, he said with a nod. They worked together to rally the crowd around ideas for signs and messages. Emily's heart swelled with gratitude. The fear she had felt moments ago morphed into something more empowering. They were not only defending a diner, they were now witnesses in their own stories, united against an impersonal force. But just as the crowd began to buzz with anticipation, the executive's voice cut through their moment of connection once again. You're wasting your time here, he said, dripping with condescension. These people mean nothing in the grand scheme. I can make the diner disappear without a second thought. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Emily's stomach twisted. She turned to face the executive, searching for any flicker of doubt in his cold eyes. You may think you can erase places and memories, she challenged, but you'll never tear us apart. You don't know us. Then let us put that to the test, he replied, an unsettling smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The crowd recoiled, sensing the danger beneath his words. What was he planning? In that moment, Emily knew they couldn't simply wait for the truth to fall into their laps. She had to act fast. But what kind of battle lay ahead? Mark, let us split up and gather any information we can. We need to know everything, and then we'll organize a plan to show him just how much this diner means to us." As they set off into the crowd to spark action, the assurance of their purpose swelled within her. Yet, deep down, uncertainty lingered. What if the truth was worse than she imagined? With emerging commitment but heavy hearts, they prepared to dig deeper. A storm was brewing, and Emily was at the center, bracing for the revelations ahead. What secrets lay behind those boardroom doors that could change everything? Emily's heart raced as she and Mark divided their paths, each stepping into the unknown. The crowd started to disperse, but the warmth of their unity lingered like a light in the twilight. She could hear the chatter of small groups, fervently discussing what banners to create and how to rally more support. The din of hope and determination swelled around her, yet her mind was clouded with questions. She made her way to the diner, where the scent of coffee and baked goods still hung in the air. It was a familiar sanctuary, but today it felt different. She could almost feel the walls holding their breath, waiting for news. She knew she had to act quickly. As she entered, she spotted Lila, the waitress with a heart of gold. Lila was packing up the boxes of supplies that had always kept the diner running smoothly. Her face lit up at the sight of Emily, but there was a shadow of worry behind her smile. "Hey, Emily. What's going on? I heard some things out there that got me really worried," Lila said, her hands pausing mid-motion. Emily pulled up a chair, heart pounding. "I can't explain everything right now, but we need to find out what the corporate plans really are. Anything they've got in the works could hurt us all." Lila nodded, her expression turning serious. "I've overheard some conversations too. It's not just about profits. It's about changing the whole vibe of the diner, making it another corporate spot with no heart." Emily gasped. "What do you mean?" "They want to switch everything. Change the menu, the staff, even the name." Lila's voice was barely above a whisper, as if saying it out loud would make it real. "If they think they can come in and take that away from us," Emily felt the flicker of rage ignite within her. "No way. This diner stands for family, for community. We have to protect that." Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the pavement. They had to make their voices heard, and quickly. Surging with energy and determination, Emily grabbed a roll of paper and colored markers from Lila's supply stash. As her hands flew across the paper, she poured her heart into slogans: "Save our diner. Community matters." Each letter was a promise, a declaration. "Let us get the word out," Emily said, handing Lila a stack of flyers. "We need to reach everyone: families, neighbors, even those who used to come here. If they believe in what we're fighting for, then we have a fighting chance." "Right. I'll call up everyone I know," Lila said, already buzzing with excitement. Just then, Mark walked back in, his face slightly flushed. "You're not gonna believe what I just found out." He thrust a folder onto the table, papers spilling out. "I went to the corporate office and did some digging. I think I have the documents that lay out their plans." Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. This was the moment. This could be their chance to expose the truth and save the diner. She looked at Mark, then at Lila. "What's on those papers?" Mark's face was pale, but determination sparkled in his eyes. "I'll let you see for yourself. But we need to move fast. We're running out of time, and they're watching." As they huddled over the documents, Emily's heart raced. What truths lay buried in those pages? What would they reveal about the executive's true motives? The stakes had never been higher. It was a battle against time, against indifference, and against everything they loved. Emily's palms felt sweaty as the weight of the challenge settled on her shoulders. In that moment, as she flipped through the pages, it became crystal clear: this was about more than saving a diner. It was about standing up for their community, their shared history, and the very essence of family that had been woven into every corner of that place. "Are we ready for what we're about to uncover?" she asked, looking first at Mark, then Lila. They couldn't back down now. The truth was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for them to find it. But as they prepared to dive deeper, a nagging fear nipped at Emily's heart. What if those revelations shattered everything they believed in? What if they discovered something that would change their lives forever? The night was closing in, and tomorrow dawned with uncertainty. But one thing was clear: they were all in this together. Whatever awaited them, they would face it as a community. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Little did they know, the corporate world was about to unleash a storm of its own. What were the executives hiding that could change everything for the diner? The clock was ticking, and Emily was ready to fight. Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she thumbed through the documents. The text was dense, filled with business jargon that seemed foreign. But amidst the complex sentences, one line struck her harder than a punch in the gut: projected profit margins from cutting staff and rebranding. It was a cold strategy to wipe out the heartbeat of the diner, snuffing out the warmth that had been cultivated over decades. Mark leaned closer, his breath quickening. "Look at this," he said, pointing out an itemized list detailing layoffs and revised menu items. "They're not just planning to change the name. They want to eradicate everything that makes this place special." Lila squinted, her brow furrowing. Why would they do this? People love the diner just as it is. Because they think they can make more money by treating it like a fast food joint, Emily replied, feeling frustration welling inside her. How could corporate executives care so little about a community that had embraced this diner as part of its very fabric? "Not if we stop them," Mark said with fire in his eyes. His unwavering resolve gave Emily a jolt of encouragement. "What's our move now?" Lila asked, her voice steadier, more purposeful. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership settle on her shoulders. "We need to gather more evidence. We have to show everyone what's planned. If we can pull together enough support and public outcry, we might just have a chance." "Then let us start a rally," Mark suggested. "We can bring people together, raise awareness. If we show them it's more than just a diner, maybe they'll rally behind us." "That's it!" Lila exclaimed, enthusiasm bubbling over. "We can create a community meeting at the diner. Let us bring in local families, the regulars. Remind them why they love this place." As the three of them outlined plans in a flurry of excitement, Emily felt a rush of hope. The diner wasn't just a building, it housed memories, laughter, and the shared lives of everyone who walked through its doors. Each cup poured, every birthday celebrated, had woven their stories into the walls, but Emily couldn't shake off the unease thrumming in her chest. Would it really be enough to rally a community that had so often kept to itself? What if their voices were drowned out by corporate interests that had the money and power to bulldoze over their history? "Okay, let us mobilize," Emily said, trying to dispel her doubts. "We'll make flyers, social media posts. We'll organize the meeting for tomorrow evening." "No, make it tonight. We need to act fast." "Tonight it is," Mark said, determination radiating from him as he started jotting down tasks. As the night fell, the diner buzzed with urgency. Each flyer they printed, each message they sent out was a battle cry. Amidst the laughter and camaraderie, the stakes became real. Emily watched as Lila chatted excitedly with a few regulars who came to grab dinner, inviting them to the rally, but the comfort of those bustling minutes was shattered by a sudden, unexpected chill that snaked its way through her heart. What if they were too late? What if the corporate powers already had plans set in motion that they could not reverse? Just as those thoughts clung to her like shadows, the familiar jingle of the doorbell announced a newcomer. It was Janet, the diner's former head cook. Just outside the entrance, Janet had left under tense circumstances, spouts of anger contributing to her decision to walk away. But Emily knew she was also a voice that could sway many at this rally. Feeling hopeful, Emily rushed towards Janet. "We need you, Janet. Come in," she called, the invitation sincere and urgent. Janet paused, unsure, her eyes glistening with what looked like longing or perhaps unhealed wounds. "What is going on? I don't know if I have a place here anymore." Emily stepped closer, her heart pounding with an instinct that this could pivot everything. "We're fighting for the diner that we all love. And I need you there." Would Janet's return galvanize others? Could the diner's heart endure one more trial? The answer was just a heartbeat. A heartbeat that echoed the question on everyone's mind: could they really save what they had fought so hard to build? The air was thick with anticipation as the sun sank low, casting a warm golden light over the diner. Emily stood outside, surrounded by familiar faces, her heart racing with a blend of hope and apprehension. Tonight was the night. The community was rallying, and she could feel the energy humming around her. As people began to gather, Emily took a deep breath, her resolve tightening with every heartbeat. Everyone knew what was at stake. With her brother Mark at her side, she stepped forward, clutching the flyers they had printed. The crowd buzzed with nervous chatter, but as she clapped her hands together, silence fell like a blanket. "Thank you all for being here," she called, her voice steady but her heart thumping. "Tonight, we're not just saving a diner. We're saving our stories, our memories. We are families, friends, and neighbors. We are what makes this place special." Cheers erupted from the crowd, igniting a fire in Emily's chest. Their unity reminded her that they were more than just individuals, they were a collective force fighting against a faceless corporation. "We have come together for one reason," she continued, "to protect what we love and to show that we are more powerful than their cold calculations. Let us share what this diner means to us. Every story matters. Who wants to go first?" Around the circle, hesitant hands shot up, and one by one, the stories flowed. A single dad spoke about his daughter's first birthday celebrated at the diner, while a retired couple shared how the diner had been the backdrop of their love story. Lila, her eyes shining, recounted countless Saturday mornings filled with laughter and pancakes. Each tale stacked upon the next, showing the heart and spirit of their community. Emily's heart soared. Here they were, faces they had known for years, opening up, sharing pieces of their lives. It was electric. When the last story ended, a palpable warmth radiated through the crowd. "Now, we need to gather signatures," Emily shouted, her voice rising above the emotions swirling around. They had to show the powers that be just how much support they had behind them. "Let us start collecting and get everyone's thoughts and signatures on our petitions. We will take this to the board meeting tomorrow, and will show them the soul of Joe's diner." With renewed enthusiasm, groups sprang into action, moving through the diner and onto the sidewalk. Laughter mingled with determination as people approached passers-by, sharing flyers, inviting them to join their mission. Mark held up a big sign that read, "Save our diner." But just as the energy peaked, a sharp voice sliced through the elation, a familiar voice that sent a kick of dread through Emily. The corporate executive stood nearby, arms crossed, surveying the gathering with a sneer. "You really think this will change anything?" he called out, a cold smile creeping across his face. Emily's stomach dropped, but the crowd responded with a collective murmur of discontent, their bond only strengthening. "This diner matters," she shouted back, her strength renewed. "You can't erase the love that has been built here." The executive stepped forward, his expression darkening. "You are wasting your time. We have plans, and they're bigger than any of you. You shouldn't fight a battle you want to win. Then watch us win." Emily shot back. The crowd echoed her sentiment, voices rising in a chant of unity. They were a wall of determination standing firm against the corporate storm. As the executive smirked and backed away, Emily seized the moment. "Okay, everyone. Let us wrap this up. Tomorrow, we're going to deliver our petition and make our voices heard." Excited chatter erupted as everyone quickly gathered signatures, and Emily felt a swell of pride in her chest. The next day dawned gray and cold, but resolve warmed Emily's spirit. Armed with the gathered signatures, they marched towards the corporate office. The familiar feeling of fear nipped at her heels, yet the warmth of community surrounded her. They were no longer just individuals but a family standing together. When they arrived, the tension was palpable. Emily stepped forward, gathering her thoughts. "We are here to present our petition and our stories. We are not just numbers to be moved around for profit," she announced boldly, heart racing. As she pushed through the office door, Emily felt every fear, every doubt, and every piece of hope converging at that moment. What lay ahead was uncertain, but she knew one thing: together, they would be heard. In that room full of corporate suits and paperwork, Emily found her voice. This battle wasn't just hers, it belonged to every worker, every family, every soul tied to Joe's diner. And she was ready. Tomorrow, they would fight because love and community could triumph over all. Emily took a deep breath, bracing herself for the confrontation ahead. Every moment led to this: a fight not worth losing, and with determination lighting a fire in her heart, she knew that they were going to reclaim their home together. Now's the moment for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Support matters. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.